Do you miss the connection when you knock somebody out? Do you miss that?
No, I don't miss it, but I just miss the being in the ring and, raising the hand that you win, when your hand go up and
The
I
crowd
miss all
goes
that,
wild.
it all pays off, yeah, because hard work.
For you, what is it to be a tough guy?
Humble, quiet, but yet inside you know what you can do. That's the most important. I don't need to prove to anybody what I used to be or what I was before and stuff,
He was once one of the top professional boxers in the world in the junior lightweight class. Today he teaches what he's learned in and out of the boxing ring to at-risk youth in public housing. Ralph Aviles, next on Long Story Short.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in high definition.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ralph Aviles of Ewa Beach, Oahu is a former professional boxer who reached the rating of number 3 in the world in the junior lightweight division during the mid-1980s. However, he received only modest press coverage. As a boxer, Aviles overcame obstacles and learned how to deal with adversity. But his challenges in the ring pale in comparison to the struggles he faced as a child growing up on the west side of Oahu.
First that I can recall was living in Nanakuli when I was very, very young, at the age of probably 2 or 3, Nanakuli. I was born down Makaha side. Then we moved to Maili, and then we moved to Makaha.
And what was your family like?
My family was was pretty much close at the time because we had very, very hard time. My mom wasn't working.
What about your dad?
We never had a dad at the time. Yeah.
Never met your dad at that time?
No.
So just your mom. Your mom wasn't working, but she was having babies?
Yes. She was on low income at the time, yeah.
Did your mom tell you why you didn't see your dad?
No, she didn't explain. My mom was a lot more to herself. We had to live more on our own,
She kept to
survive on
herself.
our own. Yeah, she kept more to herself.
So how many of you lived together at the same time with your mom?
About 7 of us.
So do you remember not having enough at that young age?
Absolutely.
What do you recall?
I recall when we didn't even have a table to sit on to eat. So we would sit on the floor and eat. Yeah, we would go out and play, and we never have so much toys, but then we would make our own toys one way or another, play under the house, and just entertain our own self. Yeah, we had a hard time.
Living conditions for Ralph Aviles and his family improved when Abel Aron entered his life and became his stepdad. Aron was the first father figure in Ralph's life and began to coach him in boxing when he was 5 years old. The large family would eventually move to an even more rural place, the sleepy village of Pahoa on Hawaii Island.
My stepdad, he started to move in with us in Nanakuli, and then he moved us out of Nanakuli into Maili in a regular home, whereas Nanakuli was a low-income place,
And then when did you go to Pahoa?
After living in Makaha for a few years.
What was Pahoa like?
Very, very slow. Everything just went stop. When we got there, everything was like, okay. It's like in the beginning when we first moved there for a few years, we never liked there. We never liked it. We didn't enjoy being there. Everything was just different. It was just, nothing was surrounded. Everything was just spread apart.
But you had each other still?
Yes.
And then your stepdad took an interest in the boys' boxing.
Yes. He created a boxing club up in Pahoa. Then we used to come down, fight for the Golden Gloves and, amateur boxing. And we used to compete a lot because we had our own club.
So was it always disciplined fighting like boxing, or did you guys get in trouble too?
No, not very much was in. I was always disciplined, you know, was never in trouble, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yes. I mean, you know, now you brought that up, you know, I'm like, wow, you know, yeah, I never realized that. But, you know, we never, because I guess because of the Police Athletic League, there was always, you know, emphasizing to all the clubs and the districts, you know, stay out of trouble, yeah. That's what it was. That's what it was helping, yeah.
And they were helping you use your energy up in a disciplined way.
Yes, yes. They was really backing us up back then, the Police Athletic League. They used to supply us with all the equipment.
And you probably had to learn a lot of, there's a lot of mental attitude, right? I mean, you know, it's not just the physical, it's really about how to control your psyche as you fight.
Yes, people think when you get hit, you get mad, yeah? No, it's not like that in the ring, yeah? I'm talking about boxing now. I'm not talking about the you know, MMA, UFC. I'm talking about boxing. You know, boxing, you have to stay in control, you know.
It's very strategic.
Yes, you have to be always thinking, yeah? And you cannot get mad, because once you lose your temper, you know, the guy is gonna, you know, he's gonna take care of you. He's gonna do a good job on you, because you're not focused.
They say that some of the best boxers are those who come from very tough circumstances, and they have kind of a nothing to lose attitude, like I want to get out and this is going to get me out. Would you say that's motivated you?
Well, what really motivated me was my stepdad. You know, he would always push me. Even when I was trying to play another sport in school, high school, basketball, you know, football, when it came time for events, big events in boxing, he would pull me out. And I would get very, very upset about it. But then, you know, today, that's the right thing he did for me, you know, I think.
Under the strict guidance of Abel Aron, his stepfather and coach, Ralph Aviles became a professional boxer at age 18.
When I turned 18, my first fight was in Japan. I fought the world champ kickboxer.
Kickboxer?
Yes, but he became a professional boxer, but he was a world champ kickboxer. And we fought 8 rounds.
And? You won?
Yes, I won. Was in Japan.
That was your very first professional bout?
Yes. And then from there on, it just took off. You know, I was main event here, 10 rounds.
Who did you fight?
Many different fighters from the Philippines, Mexico. They would always bring down a fighter, yeah.
And where did you fight? What was the venue? Was it at Blaisdell?
Blaisdell. Was HIC at the time, yeah.
HIC, yeah.
Yes.
Good crowd?
3,000, 4,000, you know, 5,000. It all depends, yeah, it varies.
Any names we would know as of the folks you fought?
No, they was all from you know, different states, different countries. Yeah. Mexico, Philippines.
Your mom was involved too, right?
Yes.
What did she do?
She was the manager.
The momager?
She was my manager, you know, for a few years when I turned professional.
How many other women were involved at the time? Did you see other?
She was the first in Hawaii, and still the first, I believe.
And how did she manage you? What were her skills as a manager?
Well, she would do a lot of cooking for me, and wherever I would go, she would be next to me. You know, she's been like was a mentor to me. Yeah, was close. Me and my mom was very close. Yeah, no matter what, you know, I would never, whatever she did, I would never look at her in the wrong way. I was always, you know, I had a lot of respect for her to this day.
And then, so all of your brothers wanted to do more with boxing? I mean, you went professional. Did they too?
No, I was the only one that went professional.
Okay, now why is that?
Because my brothers, a couple of them went to the military, you know. They went their own separate ways, yeah. The sport is very, very challenging, yeah. It's very hard work. And not everybody can really maintain it, for so many years, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, you get beat up too sometimes, right? It's not a one-way street.
Yes, you do. I gotta admit that, yes.
What were you known for?
I would love to throw a left hook to the body, yeah. And movements, defense. Yeah, that was very important to me. If you don't have defense, then, it's hard to move up in the game, yeah. I'm not one that, even though the hand is raised, I'm not one that likes to win if you're all cut up. So, I advertise a lot about defense.
What did you learn from other fighters? Everybody has their style and their stance and their approach. What did you learn from others that came up against you?
There's a little respect for each other. When you're in a ring and you hit each other, you have a little respect,
That you could get to each other.
Yes, for each other. And you can kind of sense it,
What was the hardest time you had in the ring?
My hardest time was, wasn't in the ring, was in the locker room.
What happened?
My real dad approached me.
Your real dad?
Yes.
Whom you'd never met before?
Yes. And it was really devastating because of I was just getting ready for the fight, was intermission, and I was putting on my robe, putting on my gloves, and my manager said, "Ralph, I have a surprise for you."
Your manager said that?
Yes. Not my mom manager, but my other manager, who was Larry Ichinosi. He said, "Ralph, I have a surprise for you." And then I looked by the door.
You knew what he looked like?
Yes, I kind of knew what he looked like, Then when he stand by the door, I was like, I was in shock because I wasn't sure of myself. Should I go and hug him, or should I just stand here and stay here? Because my stepdad was standing right by me, and should I show emotions, or I never know what to do. I was just confused, and I was getting ready to fight in 15 minutes. Putting on my gloves, everything,
Kind of wondering about Mr. Ichinosi's timing, but...
Yes.
So what did your father say?
He didn't say anything.
And you didn't say anything?
I didn't say much. I just said, "Oh." I said, "Oh, hi." And Larry Ichinosi, when just all of a sudden said, "You know what, Ralph, I was putting up posters downtown," and he came and approached me and said, "That's my son." And Larry Ichinosi said, "What? That's your son?" So Larry Ichinosi asked him what was my mom's name, and he mentioned all that to him. So he knew that this guy wasn't joking. He knew that this guy was for real. That's why he brought him to the fight for the first time.
Did you have a conversation with him?
No, I did not.
So he never said much, you never said much?
No.
And then he just walked away?
I just gave him a kind of like a hug, just not a real big hug, but just a hug, a hug, and it was time to get into the ring, but my mind was already just going. I lost my my determination.
And you lost the fight?
I lost the fight.
Ralph Aviles says for years he did not know that following that surprise appearance, his birth father suffered a beating by people protective of the newly successful young boxer and was warned to stay away. Ralph never saw his birth father again. In 1992, 10 years after their brief meeting, Ralph found out more about Esperanzo Aviles, the father he never knew.
He was homeless. He was alcoholic, homeless, pushing wagons, living down Chinatown. I never know. Into the coroner's office called me.
And how did they know you were his son?
They found some paper clippings of my fights in his wagon.
He carried clippings of you in his life.
Yes.
So that sounds like love.
They found him in the ocean, Chinatown. He drowned.
Yeah, hard to get past things like that, right? I mean, it's just something you never could have known about, and you just have to accept. Couldn't know the man, and he died probably wanting to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
Although Ralph Aviles never knew his biological father, he had several positive adult male influences besides his stepdad.
Remember any names of people who helped you out?
James Takushi.
James Takushi, the state labor negotiator?
Yes, yes,
He was a boxing fan?
very much. Yes, his son is also a boxing fan too, and the son is my age too. So, you know, me and him, we get along real fine. We're good friends. We've been friends for years and years and years. You know, back when I first started professional.
And how did he help you?
He got me a job when I came down from when I was on the Big Island. Then I moved back over here. He got me a job, part-time job, so that way I can work when I'm not fighting. And when I'm fighting, I can take off easily. I had no problem, you know. So he did a lot for me, and, you know, he was always checking up on me and, you know, make sure that I'm on track, that I'm not banging the guardrails, right? Once you start banging the guardrails, you know that you're not on track, so, you know, you gotta retrack yourself again, yeah. And I had Ted Kimura. He was the owner of Island Termite at that time. Island Termite was a big termite company at that time. He was also helping the younger generation, the younger kids. He was doing a lot of donations too. And he helped me out a lot too, you know, not financial, but mostly, you know, physically and just talking and letting me know the rights and wrongs.
Of the game or of the sport?
Of the sport and what's out there, yeah.
Or what not to get involved in?
Yes, yes, yeah.
You were way up there in the world of boxing in your class, right?
Yes, yes, I was number 3 in the world, rated number 3 in the world.
How long did it take you to become number 3 in the world?
Just about 8 years.
And what division?
Junior lightweight.
And
It's 130 pounds. Yeah. Of course, now I'm not 130 pounds.
who did you fight to get there?
I fought I fought a couple fighters that fought for the title, but they also lost the title. I mean, not the title, but that match, you know. So I fought a couple of them. One was from the Philippines and one was from Mexico. And then I beat them, so that's how I moved up in ranking, yeah. And, you know, back then the WBC was very strict too, so you know you really had to perform and earn your position.
So from 18 to age 26, that's how long you fought professionally?
Yes, I had 33 fights, professional. 28 wins and 5 losses with 18 knockouts. I retired in 1986.
And why did you retire?
My good friends offered me a good job,
Which was?
driving the city bus. And to this day, I'm still driving the city bus after 31 years.
So how do they make their case for the city bus versus number 3 in the world boxing?
Because said Sammy Chinosin wasn't around to promote fights anymore. You know, I was just fighting here in Hawaii and not moving up in rankings and stuff, and I was looking for a title fight, but I never did have a title fight.
Yeah, you have to be offered the opportunity,
Yes.
right?
Well, you know, you have to become number 1 before you get a title fight, yeah.
Yeah. So you could see it wasn't going into a good place. It wasn't going in the right direction.
Yeah, and you know, I was getting up in age too. Well, you know, 26 years old, then I figured, you know what, I said, you know what, if I have a job, I might as well just take this and just not for ready.
So after you finished boxing and you started bus driving, did you start a family?
Yes, start a family, and you know, I got two kids right now, a boy and a girl. They're 25 and 23.
Since retiring from professional boxing in 1986, Ralph Aviles has lived a quiet life as a city bus driver and family man. Aviles volunteers with Matt Levi, a private investigator and journalist, to help him work with at-risk youth. Matt founded the nonprofit Lavakua Kajukenbo Club that operates at public housing complexes.
We work out. I teach them, you know, striking, self-defense. You know, how to keep your hands up. It's just basically boxing, you know. And you know, they enjoy it. I hold a mitts for them. You know, I teach them combinations. They love it. They like that. You know, they can let out their anger, let out their frustrations. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Good. Then come back again. With the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Back with the left hand. 8, 4. Go. 1, 2.
Some people would say, oh my God, these kids are at risk and you're teaching them how to hit people. Why is it a good thing to teach them boxing?
We never bring up hitting people, yeah. We don't bring that up. And you know, these kids, as they're growing, they're not thinking to themselves that they are hitting people and going out there and hitting people, because we're teaching them self-respect, you know.
So they think of it in terms of self-defense and self-respect. They can protect themselves.
Yeah.
They can be strong.
Mm-hmm. And they get confidence no matter where they go, you know.
Both of you, you guys move back or forward. You guys can move here too, okay? Because he's throwing. Either of you are throwing, but yet all you're doing is blocking, 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 which is good. But what we need to do now is move side to side too, yeah? Jab. Move. There you go. Yeah. Move. Getting more tired by just moving back and forth and all over the place. Okay? So use your hands, make your hands, your arms work. Okay? That's your defense right there. Hands up. It's all blocked.
What's a situation where this would help them?
This will help them. At least they can, instead of getting into a major fight, instead of getting into trouble, they can try to avoid it. And why I say try to avoid it is because they know self-defense, you know. So they can easily block and say, you know what, I don't want to fight. I told them that, you know, we need to grow and have some self-esteem and some confidence before you can get out there and share whatever you want to share with others. Because if you don't have confidence, you know, you intend to get off track and do the wrong things.
Do you see yourself in them?
I never thought about that, you know, if I see myself in them. But I always thought, even when I was young, that, you know, I think respect was always first on my list. Yeah.
How to get respect?
Yes. So, you know, I always carried that around, yeah. You got to have respect for yourself before you can show respect, yeah.
So how wonderful. It's good for the young people you're training, and it's good for you.
Yes. No, it is. That's why it's good now that I'm doing this, because it's time to, it's like a wake-up call, yeah. Even my wife said, you know, it's good that you're doing this. You need to do this, you know.
Retired professional boxer Ralph Aviles says he was emotionally isolating himself, turning inward. It's brought new light into his life to connect with young people and pass along lessons he's learned the hard way. He feels he's benefiting just as much as those he helps. As of this conversation in June of 2017, you'll still find Aviles humbly driving his city bus through the neighborhoods of central Oahu. That's another definition of being a tough guy, doing what it takes to support oneself and care for family day after day, year after year. As he said, 31 years so far. Mahalo to Ralph Aviles of Eva Beach for sharing your story with us. And thank you for joining us. For PBS Hawaii and Long Story Short, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Aloha, ahuiho.
For audio and written transcripts of all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org. To download free podcasts of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, go to the Apple iTunes Store or visit pbshawaii.org.
So we see pictures of you in the archives where you're with Sylvester Stallone.
I don't know, one day I was in the gym and my trainer told me that he's gonna come watch you train. And I said, what? You know, he said, yeah, Sylvester Stallone. So they shut down the whole gym and wasn't there, and he came. And I was pretty much shocked too. I was stoked. I was like, wow.